right, so open up your textbook to page 84, and you're going to be opening it to My Mother's Garden. All right, so our learning intentions and when it converted, it did that. Same from yesterday. Yesterday we just started it, and today, Monday and Tuesday, we're finishing it. So the success criteria is the ability to write your narrative using thoughtful decisions about subject, character, and structure. Okay. When you are writing your introduction, okay, you want to start with what is called a narrative lead. I would recommend that you write down the names of these narrative leads. The notes are on Schoology if you want to look at examples of them, but I think just from the title that it's pretty self-explanatory. But if you want to go back and look at the examples after I go over them, feel free to pull it up in Schoology, this PowerPoint that has the examples on it. When you're writing your introduction, you start with a narrative lead. That's one of those things on the rubric we talked about that deals with organization, narrative leads. Okay. There are different types and different ways you can start your introduction. The first one, well, what it is, it's a hook, basically. Okay. It's a way to grab the reader's interest or attention, and that's what you want to do. It can be a sentence, a paragraph, or even a few pages. For the assignment that you have right now, it's probably going to be one sentence. A few pages would be like a novel. Okay. So there are 6 different types. Okay. The first one is a talking lead. Okay. So the first type of lead is talking, which is dialogue. Okay. So you can start your short story or your narrative with dialogue. Instead of saying, there was a bat in our house last summer, okay, because that's kind of boring. It's not a hook. You could say, quick, hit the floor, my dad yelled. Whatever you do, don't look up, my mother added as I dropped to the floor and slid myself under my bed. It was a terrifying night for my family when we discovered a bat in our house. So you have a little bit of dialogue saying the exact same thing. Much more interesting and stronger. Okay. The second type of lead is a sound effect. There was a loud storm outside my house last night. Smash. Okay. The window cracked, the wind howled, and the door flung open. Rain poured in through the screen, drenching the welcome mat inside our house. I will never forget the fierce storm that invaded my house that night. So that's imagery. It's just describing it with a sound. Action. I was excited for my birthday party. Very boring. I threw on my favorite red dress and scrambled down the stairs as fast as I could. It was my 8th birthday, and I couldn't wait for the party to begin. So instead of just saying you were excited, you describe that excitement, the show. Okay. The snapshot. Again, this is going to be imagery. Instead of saying ice skating is my favorite sport, you kind of give us a snapshot of the setting. It was 10 degrees below zero, and the river is frozen a foot thick. It makes snapping sounds like the limbs of a tree cracking. A lone figure glided along the black ice, moving towards the city. The only sound is the scraping of each blade as it bites into the river. That's me doing my favorite sport, ice skating. So that's creating a picture, your snapshot. The question lead. Instead of saying, in this story, I will tell you about playing football with my friends. So instead you could say, in what sport can you tackle opponents, catch 30-yard touchdown passes in overtime, and sack the quarterback before he can even complete a pass? In football, of course, it's my favorite sport.
It is?
It's the example.
Oh, I know you like football.
It's the example. So you start with a question lead. That's probably the easiest one to do, just because you're describing something, in this case, the subject, which is football, and then asking the question, but it is up to you. The flashback lead is a little more difficult for where you are in writing right now. I remember the time I won the game for my team. I remember is the key word for flashback. Okay, and a lot of you have been starting your narratives with I remember, so it is a very good way to lead. It's strong, and it's one of those devices you would get good points for on the rubric, but you do have to be careful. So instead of saying I remember the time, you would say I could feel the sweat pouring off my body as I watched the seconds tick off the clock. It was as if I was dribbling in slow motion, weaving in and out of the defenders and heading towards the hoop. As the buzzer sounded, I felt the ball roll off my fingertips, and I watched anxiously as it spun around the rim for what seemed like an eternity. I finally heard the swish of the net. I had won the game for my team. Now that itself is not the hard part. The hard part is the next sentence, the one that's not in the lead, is present tense. So you have to switch your tense. And kids often mess that up and they stay in past tense. But if the writing is in present or future, like what will happen 10 years from now, and you go, well, I remember when, if you stay in past tense, you've completely failed the entire essay, because the prompt is in the future and you accidentally stayed in the past. So you have to make sure that if you use the flashback, after your flashback, you switch tenses to whatever the prompt is asking you to do. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go ahead and write your introduction, and then we will look at body paragraphs. For the body paragraph, you have been given an outline. Okay, this is what I passed out to you yesterday, kind of on accident. What you're going to do, and this is another brainstorm part, is you're going to look at this and go, on my plot chart, I say that in the first part, she's going to talk with the business manager about letting me grow my garden. That's what you put on your chart. Okay. So for summary, what's going to happen in this scene, you want to basically summarize it. So mom decides to stand up for her right to have a garden. This is basically going to be your first and your last sentence of your paragraph. Okay, it's kind of what that's going to be. Now, obviously, you're not going to copy that line down twice, but it's what you're going to write about. Your topic sentence and your concluding sentence. Is there going to be dialogue in there? Okay. If so, yes, and talk about how it helps kids, relieves my stress. What that's going to do is it's going to help you go, okay, I need to know what to write next. You're going to look at this brainstorm. Oh, I need to write dialogue about this. Okay. If you're like, I'm not having dialogue in this paragraph, you're going to put nothing. What part of the conflict is going to be addressed? So if your story is about her struggle as a mother, so the conflict is the struggle to pay bills. And you know the entire paragraph is going to be talking about how hard it is to pay her bills. Okay? She's using the garden to help relieve her stress, and this guy is causing problems, and she's got to pay her bills, but that's the focus, paying her bills. What tone? We talked about in the story how the daughter was very sarcastic, and that's how we knew she was angry. Okay? Look at your brainstorm about mom, okay, where it talked about tone. What did you say mom was going to be like? Is she full of rage, okay, like the daughter, or is it different? So what tone do you want this scene to be? If you want it to be peaceful, you know the words that you choose are going to be calming. If you're like, no, the mom at this scene, because she's confronting the guy, is going to be angry, you know how you're going to write it. You're going to write words that show that she is angry. All right, what motivates the character? She wants to pay her bills, so the motivation is going to be protecting her daughter. It's going to be being able to eat. Whatever matches your storyline. And what kind of sensory words do you want to do? For this one, instead of listing specific words, I would just do images and say, I want to write words using imagery, or I want to write words using hear or touch. Whatever words you want to use, and that's going to help you focus. And then when you go to write this paragraph, you're going to look at this and go, this is what I write first, this is what I write next, and you've got the basic outline of your entire body paragraph done. End of class today, the only thing that is due is body paragraph 1. So I would stop your brainstorm here and just write to this point. If you get done early, then you can move on to body paragraphs 2 and 3. But since this is what's due today, I would just do the brainstorm for body paragraph 1 and then make sure that you have introduction and body nice and neat. Okay. Any questions on how to write the body? Okay. On that half sheet of paper that I gave you is a checklist. After you're done writing the body, just go through the checklist and make sure that you have it. Okay, and then you're good to go, and you know you'll have a good grade. All right, go ahead. You'll do the same thing for body paragraph 2, but at the in body paragraph 3,